right, welcome back to another episode of the Carter Cast. I'm your host, Carter Bond. On today's show with me, it's Connor. We're going to do a basketball pod today. Then NFL, college football playoff recap coming this week as well. It'll be me, Connor, and Grant on that one. Dylan's going to have to sit out, even though I feel like we have to get a video from Dylan on the reaction or whatever. I know he's on the honeymoon, but I'm going to make him send in a video. I'll play it on the podcast or something on there as well. Our bowl bet, the standings are out. It's over. Dylan murdered us. 9
Absolutely
units.
Absolutely torched us.
Grant, decent outing. I mean, he'll end up finishing probably positive.
Carter, it was rough for me, man. For all you listeners out there, be expecting an episode of the Connor Cast presented by Carter Cast coming up in a couple weeks because I got screwed. I didn't put enough preparation into it. I just blindly took Clemson, thought K. Klubnik was the answer, got screwed.
No. Wherever you lost it was UConn plus 10.5 for 4 units. That's where you lost. So, well, how do you bet UConn? 4 units on UConn.
It was a bad pick. I was feeling it. I thought it was, it wasn't a popular one. I was like, you know what? I'm going to find some value here in the trenches. Nah, bad pick. Bad pick.
All right, but we're talking basketball today. We'll recap that and everything on the football pod this week. And we're going to have guests coming on next week as well. And let's start this off. Basketball. The story of the NBA right now. We're not going to do any college basketball today. Straight NBA. The story of the NBA right now is Luka Doncic. He is on fire. We said it at the beginning of the season after he had a nice stretch where he's averaging he was having 30 points a game, triple doubles, the whole Luka thing. But lately, it's just been on another level. The last 5 games, Luka Doncic, 51, 35, 60, 32, and 50 points. Every single game shooting 50% or above. That's just stupid. That's stupid. He had 60, 21, and 10. Never been done before.
And to top off that 60-point triple-double game was the missed free throw. And then he was in midair and tied the game.
Yeah, he wishes he was Trey Jones.
And Trey Jones ended up doing it in the Spurs game the other night. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
he ended up losing. But the whole Luka thing, I just don't know. His usage rate is 38 right now. That's some of the highest we've seen since Westbrook Harden days. With the usage rate like that and his shot selection, some of these threes he's taken, you mentioned it, almost 37% from 3, I believe. These are tough shots. He has the ball in his hands the majority of the game. These aren't just, catch and shoot in the corner like, Tim Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith do, just stand in the corner and shoot threes. These are tough shots that we're seeing. I've never seen something like this.
The thing is, we mentioned, you say he's taking all these tough shots, his usage rate being out of this roof. The number one all time is Westbrook at 41.5, his triple-double season. It's not sustainable, though. You cannot win in the playoffs with this. Yeah, it's cute, but who cares? Really, at the end of the day, yeah, he'll probably win the MVP. The Mavs will make the playoffs. They'll be in the playoffs. They maybe win a round, but they're not a real finals contender just because in a 7-game series with someone that has that high of a usage rate, you can't win. History has shown time and time again, those teams cannot win when someone has the ball in their hands that much.
I completely agree, because if you're in a 7-game series, you might, have a good game 1, game 2, but eventually when you see a team like that back-to-back enough times, they're going to figure it out. It's still, these are NBA, This is an NBA playoff series. They're going to figure out how to at least hinder him a little bit. He might still get 35, 8, and 9, but they're going to find a way. They might just even send double teams at him and make the other guys beat him, which honestly might not be a bad idea. The Mavs roster just isn't constructed well enough around him, and they've kind of dug themselves into a hole with their roster situation right now. I really think they have. They're kind of wasting. I mean, he's been in the league 5 years. He's got 3 NBA, All-NBA first teams already. They're kind of wasting his best years. I think he still peaks in a couple of years, but their situation doesn't look like it's turning around anytime soon.
And he's not the kind of guy these we've seen from these European dudes. They don't want to go. They don't care to go to LA. They don't care to go to New York. So he's going to stay in Dallas.
Right. Well, if you look at their contract situation, they kind of took a swing at Spencer Dinwiddie for $20 million a year. I mean, that's kind of working out. He's been pretty good this year. But then if you look at these other ones, Hardaway's making $19 million a year. He's a decent starter, I guess. And then you got Bertans making $16 million a year. He's not even in the rotation. Christian Wood was a pretty good signing. Finney-Smith, Powell, all making double digits. Reggie Bullock, $10 million. JaVale McGee, $6 million. These guys are decent role player pieces, but Luka is still missing that second guy. It's not going to be Christian Wood, and it's not going to be Spencer Dinwiddie. They're not going to win playoff series with that lineup.
Okay, but my question is who would be the second guy that would pair with Luka? Luka's a tough guy to pair with because we saw with James Harden, it's literally the exact same thing as James Harden. I think Luka is better, but who would you even pair with Luka to have it make sense?
That's a tough question because Christian Wood has been pretty good with him this year. So I was trying to think about an upgraded version of a Christian Wood, a center that can roll to the rim off those pick and rolls, offensive rebound, putbacks, maybe can step out and hit the three. You think like a good center would be a good pairing, like a DeAndre Ayton or somebody of that type? I know he's not the best shooter in the world. What do you think?
DeAndre Ayton, I don't think does anything. I don't think that really changes this roster at all. They have to have like a stud guy, and Anthony Davis. Really don't know who. Like who. I don't know anybody who's actually possible. Like maybe he needs a point guard, a good point guard to take a little off his shoulders. Maybe
when
like
I was thinking about this, I was literally about to say I think the Mavs should have taken a swing on Kyrie. I really do because obviously he's balling out. He'll be a free agent this year. Yeah, well, he's balling out in Brooklyn this year. I think they should have taken a swing, before the season started, whenever all that Nets turmoil was going on. I think if he's somehow available, I think you take that swing. I think they might weirdly be a good pairing together.
Yeah, no, I think, and the way Kyrie's been playing this year, but do you want to spend all that kind of money on Kyrie? But other thing in the Western Conference with the Mavericks, I'm looking at it right now. They're currently 21-16, fourth in the West. The standings are so irrelevant for the next month or so until about after the All-Star break that's when the standings kind of start to really formulate because the Jazz are only 5 games from the first spot and they're 10th in the West.
Well, the All-Star break is about the time, maybe a little before then. I think we might see at the end of this month a little bit of this. It's kind of when teams decide, okay, we're going to sell now. We're going to tank. We're going to try to get Wembanyama. We're going to sell our assets. And then on the inverse of that, it's teams are like, okay, we got to gear up for the playoffs. We're actually going to get a top 4, top 5 seed. We've got to like gear up for a run because we see an opening. So when teams really decide what they're going to do for the rest of the year, that's kind of when the standings really, the top teams rise to the top, the bottom teams really bottom out. So I think it'll be interesting to see where these teams are at in, let's say, a month.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned the standings. Number 1 in the West right now, the Denver Nuggets. They're 24-12. Jokic on a tear again. Embiid fans are livid. They can't. Embiid fans can't handle that how good Jokic is because they're so blinded by the fact that the way they just think it's nerds and analytics. That's the only reason why Jokic wins this stuff. He is so good.
At the end of the day, there has to be something said for making your teammates that much better. Because he's literally, look at Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is having a career year this year. You would have thought his career was dead when he was in Orlando. Like you just thought his career just went there to die. He's having a career year this year. And if you just watch the Nuggets play basketball, Jokic is so much fun to watch. So much fun to watch. Some of those passes.
When he is out, when he is on the bench, you have to flip the league pass to a different game. I was watching last night Celtics Nuggets.
Yep.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go watch Kings Grizzlies. I can't watch it without him in the game.
Well, Jokic can't play 42 minutes a game, and right now they're playing DeAndre Jordan as their backup center. That can't happen in the playoffs. You can't see 15 minutes of DeAndre Jordan in a playoff game.
So far this season, Jokic is plus 278 on his plus minus.
That makes complete sense because it literally feels like when he comes out of the game for the Nuggets, it's just like, okay, how long can we survive? Can we survive this 6-minute stretch without Jokic on the court? It's almost like they just don't want to get blown out. Like, okay, if we're -5, -6 in these 6 minutes, like that's a win. And that doesn't make me feel comfortable about them in the playoffs. But then again, like minutes are increased in the playoffs. Jokic will probably be at 40 minutes a game, and he can probably sustain it. He's in better shape this year. I think they're in a good position. I think the West is wide open, and I think the Nuggets have a pretty good shot to make the Western Conference Finals.
So real plus minus right now, I'm looking on ESPN. Jokic is third at 8.57. Doncic 1, Tatum 2, Embiid 4, and then Curry 5. LeBron 6. That's just how bad the Lakers are.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, I tell you, some of those LeBron stretches, whenever he's on the bench for the Lakers, just as bad. You got Westbrook just going full steam to the rim and kicking it out to Troy Brown and Wenyen Gabriel and Max Christie. Ugh.
But, I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, hey, it's all great. We flip every week. We're like, oh, the Jazz, they're awesome. They're going to be great. Then next week, we're like, the Pelicans, they're number 1 in the West this week. This is awesome. The Grizzlies, they're number 1 in the West. Let's talk about them. Now it's the Nuggets' turn. And I'm sure by next podcast, it's going to be who? Let's see here. the Clippers' turn. Clippers are only
Yeah.
3 games back. They haven't had a chance at the top seed of the Western Conference. We'll talk about them and be like, are the Clippers the best team in the West? The playoffs this year are going to be one of the best playoffs ever because
There's no clear-cut team.
I genuinely believe. Okay, we'll talk about this right now. How many teams in the West do you see making it to the finals? Would you genuinely not be shocked?
The NBA Finals.
NBA Finals
I
out
really
of the Western
think,
Conference.
Okay, I'll give you a list. Looking at the standings right now, top to bottom, I think the Nuggets have a really good shot. I wouldn't be shocked. So 1. Memphis, I would be kind of shocked. I'm not going to lie. So we're not going to count them. Pelicans, I could see weirdly enough. 2. Mavs, no. Clippers, 3. Warriors, 4. I would say those 4 teams are my top 4. And then Memphis and Dallas, like kind of right behind them.
You could argue, like, okay, but then you look at the Grizzlies, like, who are the Grizzlies that much worse then? Like, I know they haven't been there before. They have to prove that to do it. Same with the Pelicans. The Nuggets have to prove that they can make it to the finals too.
Right.
I don't see the the Grizzlies in a 7-game series. I could see any of these teams beating anybody. It's crazy.
It really comes down to matchups. So that'll be what really, I think at the end of the year, we're going to see a lot of teams trying to get a certain seed for a certain matchup, even more than in previous years. I mean, the Grizzlies have the depth. Yeah, injuries as well, but the Grizzlies have the depth. You're right. They have the star power. They have the rebounding. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. can't stay out of foul trouble. That's a huge thing. But they have the pieces. Maybe you're right. There's legitimately 5 teams in the West that we can see it. We can't say that many years.
Let's talk about the East then. How many in the East do you see making it to the finals?
Okay, this will be interesting. Celtics 1 for sure. I could see them making it back. I could see the Nets. The way the Nets are playing, we can get more into this in a minute. Nets are on a tear right now. If KD and Kyrie start going off, they have the pieces. So there's 2. Bucks for sure, 3. 76ers, 4. I could see them. And the Cavaliers, sneaky good. Maybe. I would be more shocked at the Cavs than the other 4, but that's still just about 5 teams in the Eastern Conference as well. I don't think any teams like the Pacers, Knicks, Heat, none of those. But the top 5, I could really see any of them.
I don't see the Cavs. I don't know why.
That would be a stretch. They're on the same level as like the Mavericks. Like if they made it, it'd be like, oh man, like that's actually pretty surprising.
I also don't see the Sixers. I really kind of think it's a 3-team race.
I mean, I think the Sixers are like a half step below, but
7-game series. You got to remember, Sixers will have to play either the Bucks or the Celtics. Do you really see the Sixers beating the Bucks or Celtics?
I don't know. It comes down a lot. I mean, Embiid's going to do his thing for sure. It really comes down. I mean, Harden's got to perform. He's got to actually care, which I think he will this year. Like,
in the playoffs, Harden in the playoffs. Remember that.
But I think he's kind of realizing, okay, like the last thing he needs is a championship. So he's got to buy in. I think the X factor for the 76ers, Tyrese Maxey just came back from injury. How is he going to come back and how is he going to play in the playoffs? Because when he was playing earlier this year, he's averaging 22 a game. Like that's pretty good production. And they have decent bench pieces as well, Carter. That's what you got to think about. I would not be completely shocked to see the Sixers, at least in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, I mean, maybe the finals.
All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the Nets. Okay, let's talk about the Nets real quick. Everybody kind of wrote off the Nets this year. They started off, they're around 500, hanging around the 8, 9, 10 play-in team spot. They're now second in the East, 24-12. They've been good. And
they have been good.
We talked about it before the podcast. You were talking about how their schedules, easy wins here and there. But the main thing is they're showing up and they're all getting minutes together. That's what matters more than anything. These wins, they're nice that they're winning. It doesn't matter if they're playing bad teams or good teams. But they're playing together. Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant are all playing together. That makes all the difference in the world come playoff time.
We touched on this in the offseason. We touched on this last year when we talked about the Nets. It's literally a matter of just playing games together, getting that feel. You can't piece it together as soon as the playoffs start. You can't bring all these guys back, having not played together most of the year, and expect it to click in the playoffs. It doesn't happen. So this year we're seeing a difference because guess what? These guys are actually healthy and playing together every single night. Plus, their supporting cast is super underrated. I said it. I actually called this before the year. I said Royce O'Neal is a perfect fit. He's starting at the 4 beautifully for them. Claxton is playing. Arguably, Nick Claxton's a top 10, top 12 center this year. I would argue that. And Ben Simmons is like mediocre, but him just not being a dumpster fire, I think, is a win for the Nets. Seriously. And then Kyrie and KD doing their thing. I would not want to see them in a playoff series. I know they've they played, like not great competition the last 11, 12 games they've won. I would not want to see them in a series. Not at all.
The Nets, having Ben Simmons, yeah, you can say he's mediocre or whatever, but come playoff time, that brings something so different where you can put him on anybody. You can put him on a point guard. You can put him on a 4, probably not necessarily a 5, but you don't really need it with Nick Claxton. Like you can put him on their best player to save the rest of Kevin Durant and Kyrie, give them rest, have them more energy on offense. You don't need Ben Simmons on offense. You really don't. Just to give Kevin Durant and Kyrie the ball. Like, and it's still, when you watch the Nets right now, the frustrating thing is it still is a little too much ISO ball, but these guys are just so good.
It's a little clunky, like you said, a little too much ISO ball. But the difference this year, I'm telling you, is whenever they get doubled, whenever the weak side help rotates, they kick it to the corner. TJ Warren's nailing threes. Seth Curry's nailing threes. Yuta Watanabe, however you say his name, nailing threes.
He's on fire.
It's unbelievable. And the supporting cast is just so much better. And I think they have the roster constructed the right way this year. I really do. I could see them winning 2 series, and I don't want to get caught in the Nets trap again after we had them in the finals and they just completely sucked. But I think I'm getting drawn in again. I'm getting drawn in.
I'm looking at Kevin Durant's stats. He's like 5th, 6th favorite on the MVP charts. That just shows how good these guys have been this year. I mean, Luka, Jokic, and Embiid are probably going to run away with it, one of those 3 guys. But Kevin Durant, 29.7 points per game. He's 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Still pretty good.
That's good.
56% from the field. And he's not a big man. He's not Mason Plumlee shooting layups. He's not
right.
Anthony Davis right around the rim. I guess Anthony Davis isn't necessarily around the rim, but like these big guys who are just making layups. And when DeAndre Jordan had those like 68% field goal percentage seasons, he is taking threes. He's taking tough mid-range shots. 56% from the field is absurd.
I mean, if you just look at the top, tell me this. 5 years ago, if I would have said Kevin Durant's averaging right at 30 points, is he in the top 5 in scoring? And if you would have said no, I would have been shocked. It's actually unbelievable, just the amount of points we've seen this year. Durant just is not slowing down. I think his game, more than so many other players in the league, just ages like fine wine. Pull up mid-ranges, contested threes, like drives to the rim. He's not doing anything insanely athletic. Like his handle's still there. His game is aging very well. And, people knew it would. He's a 7-foot guard with handle that can shoot 56% from the field. But I don't see him slowing down much at all. I think he's got at least 4 or 5 more like prime years. Maybe not prime. Prime's a strong word, but very serviceable years.
Durant's 7th on the scoring chart.
At 30 points a game. That's actually unbelievable.
Doncic, 34.2. Embiid, 33.2. Giannis, 32.1. Tatum, 30.9, Shai Gilgeous, 30.8, and then Curry, 30 on the dot.
Basically 7 players averaging 30 with Durant at 29.7. Just the offensive explosion this year, Carter, has been ridiculous. And it seems like, obviously, there's more total points being scored, but it seems like more superstars are just getting there. It's like we've seen so many more big games this year already. Like the other night, it was like less than a week ago, there was like 5 40-point games in one night of NBA action. In one night.
And what a lot of people like to say too is that, these guys don't play defense. It's easy. They're on a back-to-back. They don't play defense. In some games, yes, that may be true. When you watch these games, these guys just make incredible shot after incredible shot. Durant consistently making it over a double team.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look at these guys, like Curry hitting 30-footers. Luka Doncic is someone that just doesn't make sense when he shoots because
he's not affected.
And he's not unaffected. It doesn't matter how many dudes are in his face. Unaffected. Does not matter.
His release point's so high. Yeah.
But back to the Nets real quick. They're good. They're good. I mean, they have to be the 3rd favorite out of the East.
They've kind of figured it out. I would almost say I like them to win it more than the 76ers. I trust the Nets more in the playoffs. I trust the Nets more in the playoffs and the way they play more in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Celtics and Bucks are 1-2, 2-1, or whatever, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to say. Then I think it's the Nets behind them. I really do.
I think I agree with
the ceiling of the Nets is above any team in the East.
That's a pretty good take. Okay, I like that. Because we kind of know what the Celtics are. We kind of know what the Bucks are. When you're talking about the Nets, I feel like they can hit like one more level where you're like, oh my gosh, like this is what Sean Marks envisioned all those years ago. Oh.
See here.
I'll tell you another thing, Carter, real quick on the Nets before we move on. Steve Nash getting fired. I think they actually like their coach now. As much as we said that Steve Nash was just the scapegoat and whatever, he wasn't the main problem. Something changed. I mean, maybe they just like the coach now. The roster's constructed better. I don't know.
You won't find Steve Nash slander on this from me on this podcast.
Oh, I'm not slandering him. I just think the players like playing for Jacques Vaughn more for some reason.
Yeah, it's interesting, like these NBA coaches, how much they actually matter, like whether it's X's and O's or just getting them motivated or whether
relationships. I'm telling you.
All right, we need to talk about the teams that need to blow it up. Number one suspect is the Charlotte Hornets.
Are they not already blown up? I get from a record standpoint, they're
done. The tankathon's on. I mean, we are currently 7 games from the play-in spot behind the Wizards, 10-27. I mean, it's time to trade everyone. Terry, Kelly,
the thing with
Gordon, Mason.
The thing with the Hornets is, as bad as they are, they have some pieces that I think some contending teams would overpay a little bit for. I think Hayward's kind of playing himself out of that conversation. I think he might get dealt for something very minimal just to dump that contract. But Terry Rozier, he's got some value right now. You mentioned it before the show. He's in kind of a rut right now. He'll probably bounce back eventually. He could really contribute to a playoff team. I really think his game would be well in the playoffs. Kelly Oubre's trade value has probably never been higher. He's averaging more than 20 points a game this year. And I think with Hayward and Terry back now and LaMelo back, that'll probably go down. So I think they should move him while they have the chance. I think his value is the highest it's ever been right now. And then Mason Plumlee, he's a good backup center. I mean, I think a team would take him in a salary dump. The thing is, the Hornets got to act now because you always want to be first to like sell your assets so it's not too late. Because let's say somebody goes and gets like a comparable player to Kelly Oubre. Well, then Kelly Oubre's price kind of goes down because they see what they paid for this other player, So you kind of want to be first. I don't know. I think they need to go ahead and I'm sure they are probably talking to some other teams right now.
That's a good point, is you want to be first because obviously it was the same team, but you look at the trades is Rudy Gobert got traded first, got that ridiculous haul, 19,000 first round picks, a bunch of players or whatever. The Donovan Mitchell return wasn't as much.
You have to, you want to try to set the market. And the Gobert thing, the Jazz, we can talk about this more too. Jazz absolutely fleeced them. And the Hornets just got to try to get some kind of value for these guys because they're not in the team's future plans. Like they're clearly, I don't want to say a full rebuild mode, but they're not good enough to compete with the pieces they have right now. And I don't know. It's just frustrating to watch. And real quick on Gordon Hayward, if you watch as much Hornets as we do, I've been watching him like very closely the last, 10 games since he came back from injury. He does not care. He doesn't care anymore.
It's bad. Who has worse body language, Gordon Hayward or James Bouknight?
Oh my God, I don't know. On the court, it's got to be Gordon Hayward. At least when Bouknight's out there, he's trying to just score and do some things. Gordon Hayward just walks around, turns it over, doesn't care, no emotion.
It's really bad. Like I wonder, like, do teams even like look at that?
I don't know. Not maybe not.
Whatever.
I'm sure they do.
I want him gone. I want Terry gone. I like Terry, but I want him gone. I just blow it up. Like, what are you doing? Like, even if you don't get a great return, like, there's no point. Like, whatever. I don't know. 14%. That's all you got to hang your hat on. We just need to make a Hornets shirt that just says 14% on it.
We could probably reuse that many times in our lifetime. That can probably be worn most years. You want to go ahead and get into another team that should blow it up?
You wanted to mention the Bulls.
I did want to mention the Bulls. They're a weird team because if you look at their roster, you're like, oh, they got some dudes. Like they got DeRozan, they got Zach LaVine, they got Vucevic, who is a stud in Orlando, hasn't really panned out as well in Chicago. They've got pieces though. Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, Caruso, I think is very underrated, but it hasn't really meshed. Like they've won. They actually have a good record against the top teams in the league this year. But I have no faith in them in the playoffs. And I don't even think people within the team have faith in them in the playoffs. There was some rumors about Zach LaVine wanting out. DeRozan was like apparently on the trade block. Vucevic.
Yeah, we always talk about this. The next like NBA superstar that wants out. Zach LaVine, literally immediately after we recorded last time, was biggest kept secret in the league is Zach LaVine wants to go to LA and be a Laker.
Yeah. I don't know I don't think I had that on my superstar wanting out board, but
it makes sense. Checks out.
It does make sense. And if you're the Bulls, you've got to decide soon because eventually they're going to play their way right into like the 12th pick. Like they're going to be right on the edge of that play-in tournament, and they're going to blow it up too late. I think they got to go ahead and do it. I think they got to see what they can get for Caruso. I think Caruso is like one of their most valuable assets for the price he's at right now.
Yeah, I don't like the Bulls. I don't like watching the Bulls. I mean, just because LaMelo, I think the Bulls are one of the worst teams to watch on League Pass.
I mean, I think we saw their ceiling last year because there was all this hype around them. They had a great record. DeRozan was in MVP conversations, and then it died out, and they went to the playoffs and got not destroyed, but they had no real chance.
Yeah, no, I really do think the Bulls should blow it up. Another team I wanted to mention. This is a sneaky one.
Okay.
Should the Miami Heat blow it up?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I didn't really think about them. I think on record, I'm a big Kyle Lowry hater. He's awful, and they're paying him almost $30 million a year. He's awful. Jimmy Butler's been like, I think Jimmy Butler's been like a step slower than we've seen him before. Maybe he just turns it on for the playoffs, but he's been a step slow. If you just look at the Heat's roster, though, and especially their bench, it's gross. It's just gross. Like if your rotational guys are Gabe Vincent, Dwayne Dedman, Duncan Robinson's even seeing some minutes now, they just have some bad contracts and guys that just don't fit together right now. Tyler Hero is their best player right now. Bam, I guess behind Bam.
Jimmy Butler?
Well, he's been in and out of the lineup, but I'm telling you, he's been a step slow this year. I don't know what it is.
The Heat thing's coming to an end too. It's coming to an end. Like I know it doesn't look as bad. They're 19 and 18. They're only like 4 or 5 games out of like the second spot in the East. But when you watch the games and you see the Heat, when you see these Heat games, it feels like it's over.
It really does. And I think that bubble run was
that was it.
That was the peak of what we're going to see them as because Dragic was balling out during that. I don't know, they just gave all this money to Tyler Hero. I think they kind of, if they don't fully blow it up, I think Kyle Lowry's got to go. They somehow have to shed that Duncan Robinson contract. You can't pay a guy that much money to literally not play, coach's decision every single night. I mean, they have some decent talent, but Caleb Martin's their starting power forward. Like, how far are they really going to go?
Yeah, and you've never felt that threatened by the Heat. They're an annoying team to play in the regular season, but you never feel that threatened where like, oh, in a playoff series, you're probably going to take 4 or 5 other teams over the Heat.
I was going to say, if they play the Celtics or the Bucks in round 1, I think I'm taking Celtics Bucks 4-1, maybe 4-2.
Cavs.
I think the Cavs beat them. I think they would give the Cavs a run just because they would kind of punk them the first game, maybe.
That's true. That's actually not a bad point.
I think the Heat could kind of punk the Cavs a little bit and make it close, but I still think the Cavs would win. And I actually think that series might go 7.
But back to the original question, should they blow it up?
I think now's a good time. Seriously, Lowry's got to go. If not now, then the offseason.
Yeah, I don't even know how they would. They're in a weird spot. Another Eastern Conference team is the Wizards.
Yep, I wanted to bring them up. I think they have to blow it up. Now's the best time for them. Kuzma clearly wants out.
What are they even blowing up, though?
I think Kuzma clearly wants out. He's played his way into like a very good player this year. I think they could get a lot for him. The one that really is screwing them is they just signed Bradley Beal to that Supermax with a no-trade clause. If he doesn't waive that no-trade clause, that kind of like screws them. Like they can't really build around him. He's not the number 1 option, clearly. Like he's not going to be a number 1 option on a playoff contending team. It's just not going to be the case.
The thing with the Wizards is they've just drafted horribly.
They really have. They have not hit a draft pick because who they just take from Wisconsin?
Johnny Davis.
That's who he was. He's not. I mean, we haven't seen much of him. I watched some of his in the summer league, and I've actually like read a little bit about him. People are saying he literally can't shoot the ball.
Every NBA media podcast, TV show, anything you'll see is I haven't seen one positive thing about Johnny Davis. Not one.
He hasn't seen a meaningful minute this year. And was he 10th pick? He was top 10, right?
10th.
That's unbelievable. Who else have they missed on?
Denny Advija, whatever.
Yep. They missed on him. Corey Kispert is like he could be a role player. He could be like an 8th, 9th man in a rotation.
You knew Corey Kispert's ceiling, though. When they drafted him, you knew his ceiling. You knew what his role was going to be. He hasn't quite gotten into that role where you'd want him to be. But I don't think that's like necessarily like the worst pick in the world. I think Corey Kispert's going to be a 10-year pro.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think that's the worst pick. That wasn't like a miss. Like
It
it
was
wasn't
like the 15th pick too.
yeah, it wasn't a miss. It wasn't just like an okay, good pick. Rui Hachimura, like he's been very hot and cold. He's been hurt a lot. Like they really haven't hit on any of these guys.
And the biggest problem for the Wizards is they just continually draft at the back end of the lottery or in the middle of the lottery, like the Charlotte Hornets.
Sounds like somebody we know.
And so what you can't really do much because you get limited talent there. You just have to strike gold with a guy like Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker kind of thing. But like when you don't kind of have, I know it's cringy to say this, but when you don't have that culture there,
yep,
it's hard to build those guys up, those 12, 13, 14th picks into being superstar players if you don't have a good culture there.
I have two takes on the Wizards. Number one, they were kind of fun back when they had John Wall, Marcin Gortat. Like they had, remember
were
like
they?
The Polish Hammer?
Were they?
They were like, they made the playoffs every year. They were like sneaky, like but they would always be the first game of the playoffs at noon, and they'd be like, no, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, but like, what's the point there?
No, they've like declined even since that. I think even being at that level would be a step up. But the other thing I want to say, and you can speak to this, tell me if it seems like Bradley Beal just wants to ride out his career in Washington, play 55, 60 games a year, make a boatload of money, and just not care about winning at all.
Yeah. Like like, especially me, myself, I'll admit it. Like I always like to give Dame Lillard crap because it seems like he uses Portland as the scapegoat to avoid real criticism and trying to win an NBA title. Yep. Bradley Beal's kind of even worse than that.
When he signed that extension with the no trade clause, I was like, that's it. Like he doesn't really care. He's not gonna, I don't think he's gonna request a trade. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, but they see what happens to guys like Kemba Walker, because like if Kemba Walker would have taken less money and stayed in Charlotte, his career would have been great. He would have been an all-time Hornet, even though he already is. And everyone would have been like, he just never had the right situation to win. Like it's not his fault.
The weird thing with Bradley Beal is if he does end up getting moved at some point in the next year or two, I think it's more like the Wizards want to move him and not him demanding a trade. As weird as that sounds.
If he wanted to leave, he would have been gone 3 seasons ago.
That exactly. I feel like he's just wasting his best years. I don't know.
He must love DC or something. Let's do a couple more teams to blow it up, and then we'll do our last segment.
Let's go.
Trailblazers.
No. I think I was low on them coming into the year. I think if they got like this won't happen, but remember when the offseason hit and Durant was like, I want out. Imagine if Durant went to Portland. That'd be a good team. Because they have
be a bad team.
Lillard, Simons, that's a good backcourt. Jeremy Grant's been pretty serviceable this year. And Nurkic is like a good caliber starting center. He's not anything crazy, but he'll get you what you need.
He's an improved Mason Plumlee.
Yeah. He always hits threes at the worst times, I feel like, whenever I bet against him. But anyways, yeah, I mean, they're not a bad team at all. They have a decent mid. Shaedon Sharpe looks pretty good this year. I think that was a good pick.
Okay.
I mean, they've got some dudes. I don't think they should blow it up. I think they should be looking to buy. I think if they added I'm not going to say Gordon Hayward because he's just disgusting right now, but like if they added one more piece, they could maybe win a series. I don't know. You never know.
Okay. All right. I don't disagree there. I think it's kind of a weird situation. They're another team where like their ceiling can only go so high, and there's not a player out there for them to really get realistically.
Oh, imagine if they got CJ McCollum to pair with Damian Lillard.
The Utah Jazz.
I don't think there's anything for them to really blow up. I think they're just in a good position.
Marketing?
I don't think, dude, he is balling right now. I don't think they get rid of him. He's pretty young too, right? He's like, what, 25, 26?
Mike Conley?
That would be the one piece.
Jordan Clarkson?
I don't know. Clarkson's playing well too. I think you can move on from Conley.
This is the highest trade value Jordan Clarkson will ever have in his career.
I know, but it's kind of working in a weird way right now. I don't know. You know what? Hold on. How old is Jordan Clarkson? This will play into my decision. He's 30. Okay. You might want to move on from Jordan Clarkson. He's 30. Mike Conley's obviously in the twilight of his career. I think you can move on from those guys, but I think you keep marketing, and we'll talk about Kessler more in a minute. I think Kessler's a great piece. I think Kelly Olynyk's been like weirdly good, but that's not somebody you have to move on from. That's just like a weird player to have. What do you think? I don't know.
I just don't think you can. Like, I think you have to ride this out. It's like, I know, like, it probably is more smarter to get rid of these guys now, tank, go for draft picks, whatever. But like,
Yep.
Why? Why? Like, why not just ride it out? Like, Markkanen's balling, Malik Beasley's
Yep.
solid, Jordan Clarkson's playing the best in his career he ever has. I just don't see, like, why would you not just keep this going? Like, why not go for a playoff spot at this point? Like, you're
I agree.
too far removed from the Markkanen sweepstakes where or for the Wembanyama sweepstakes and the Scoot Henderson sweepstakes. Like,
Right.
you kind of just have to go for it. You really don't have a choice at this point. You've
No,
won too many games.
I
As
completely
crazy
agree.
it is to say, like, we're not even halfway through the season. They're at 39 games played. The Rockets, the Hornets, the Pistons, all at 10 games. Spurs at 12. They might not even win 20.
I don't think they catch them. Even if they started now, I don't think the Jazz would catch them. I think you kind of got to ride it out. They're kind of a fun team to watch. Even when they started losing some more games, like they keep it competitive.
I mean, I'm in Utah, so I can hardly even watch Jazz games because of the stupid blacked out market rules.
Oh my God. It's ridiculous. Bally Sports. Ugh.
Last one. The
All
Minnesota Timberwolves.
Go ahead. Say your piece about the Rudy Gobert trade. What'd you say before the show?
That might I'm not saying it might be the worst NBA trade in history.
I cannot disagree with that. If you look at the haul they gave them, the amount of first round picks and plus Walker Kessler, which is another first round pick, but they already drafted him. Kessler is good, dude. And they completely fleeced them. Gobert is almost unplayable. And I thought when Towns went down for a while, I thought Gobert would kind of pick it up. Like, oh, Gobert's back to being that, the one big man they start and whatever, all this. It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse since Towns went down. And I can't believe that. If you're a Timberwolves fan, you got to just have no hope. And the thing is, I think if you would ask Timberwolves fans when that trade happened, like once they really looked at it, like, are you really excited about this? I don't think there would have been many yeses.
I don't even know how you can blow it up because you're getting so little return for what you paid for.
You can't blow it up. They actually can't. Like, it's not even an option. They can't trade Gobert because they will get nothing for him. They can't. I mean, Anthony Edwards they're supposed to be their franchise player, him and Towns, but like, they're not going to win anything. They
D'Angelo
really
Russell.
Yeah, I mean, man, point guard. They really screwed their future when that Gobert trade. Unless he completely turns it around, but we called it. You can't play him in the playoffs, and you can't even play him at the end of the regular season games. Naz Reid's getting crunch times minutes over Gobert. That's awful. And you just gave up 5 first-round picks. Oh, my God. I can't.
Let me paint this scenario. We talked about this before where the Pelicans have the swap with the Lakers, and Wembanyama could end up being a Pelican because the Lakers are stinking. What if the Timberwolves miss the playoffs and get the number 1 overall pick that goes to the Utah Jazz?
That would be fun. Weirdly enough, the Jazz would, oh my God, that would be crazy. I don't think the Timberwolves can be that bad, though. I don't think they'll be that bad.
To get in the top 3, like maybe Scoot Henderson?
God, then it would be the worst trade in history. If the Timberwolves suck that badly to give the Jazz even like a top 5,
even if
6
the
pick.
Lakers, no matter what happens, let's say the Pelicans do get Victor Wembanyama, then the Lakers, like, who cares? The Lakers won a title. That's all that matters.
That's worth it. That's worth it. It's completely different with the T-Wolves.
Titles are, you win a freaking title. You know what unspeakable things we would do to win an NBA title in Charlotte? I would give up the next 40 years, the 40 years of misery for the Charlotte Hornets to have one NBA title.
Even if the Lakers did not win that title, I could justify the Anthony Davis trade 100 times easier than the Gobert trade because Anthony Davis is a generational talent. He was a top 5 player when they traded for him, and he still can be when he's healthy. Gobert's not even sniffing that, and they had the sample size. They've seen the playoffs the last few years, and they still gave up that haul. I don't get it.
All right.
That was a desperation move. Desperation move. I'm done.
All right. We ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. Last segment we have. We're back to doing who would you rather have? Who you want? First off, who would you rather have? Austin Reeves or Gordon Hayward?
Oh my God, imagine asking me this as a real question whenever the Hornets signed Gordon Hayward in the offseason. I would have been disgusted. Honestly, Carter, I have to say Austin Reeves because we watch every Hornets game. At least Austin Reeves tries. He puts in max effort, especially on defense, takes the ball to the lane hard, gets fouled. He can knock down open threes. Gordon Hayward, legitimately right now for the Hornets, I don't know if he's just in a funk or he's officially hung it up. I'm going to go with the latter. He doesn't even care. If you watch him, and I don't advise watching the Hornets, especially Gordon Hayward, he's officially hung it up. He doesn't care. He turns the ball over, doesn't care, doesn't run back on defense. Body language is awful, throws his hands up, misses open shots. He's just a non-factor. And one of the main things I loved about him when he first signed with the Hornets and like when he had some of those good little runs with them, he was an offense initiator at least. You could get a bucket in the mid-range. He could take it to the rim hard. He at least tried. It seems like he's hung it up and he's ready to leave town. And he's just waiting on that call like, hey, you're going to LA, you're going to wherever, Milwaukee.
Austin Reeves is averaging 10.6 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 49% from the field, 36 from 3, 90% from the line. Gordon Hayward, 14 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 43% from the field, and 29.5 from 3. Give me Austin Reeves.
I agree. If you look at Gordon Hayward's last few games, it's honestly disgusting. Let me paint you a picture. His last 7 games, let me tell you these stats. It's 2 points against the Nets, 1 for 7, 0 for 4 from 3. Only played 29 minutes, just couldn't even play him. Thunder, 10 points, 4 for 10. We had 14, 10, 15, 6, 9. That is awful. Dude's making $30 million. He was supposed to be the number 1, number 2 option on this team. I think Austin Reeves.
I would rather have Austin Reeves. When you watch Lakers games and he has the ball, 1, you're excited. 2, it feels like he makes every single shot and gets like 3 and 1s per game that are huge momentum shifts for the Lakers.
Especially at the end of games, like he's making big shots, like you just said. And take out the contract situation. We're not even factoring in the contract situation because clearly Reeves would win in that regard. I'm still taking him. I trust him more in crunch time, knocking down open shots, even driving to the basket than I do Gordon Hayward right now. And that it's
the number one thing is reliability. I mean,
yep.
Reeves has played 34 games this year, started 11. Hayward's played 20 games, 20.
He's and if you look at the last couple of years, yeah,
he's probably going to finish with 30 games unless he gets traded. Then he'll probably, be healthy for half a season and then never be healthy again.
Yeah. And I have no other explanation. I'm going to have to say Reeves right now, just the way they're playing right now.
All right. Let's get another one in here. Other thing on Austin Reeves is he has a great feel for the game.
He does. And you wouldn't think, like coming out of college, nobody had pegged him as anything. The Lakers really struck gold with him, though.
All right. Who would you rather have? LaMelo Ball or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
This is a tough one. The Hornets fan in me loves LaMelo. But Shai Gilgeous is averaging almost 31 points a game this year. The Thunder aren't very good, but they're better than the Hornets. This is a tough one. I think I'm still going with LaMelo, barely. I think I'm still going to go with LaMelo. Just because he brings that element where it's like Shai Gilgeous can score 30 a game, yes. And that's, you can't discount that at all. LaMelo makes his teammates better than Shai Gilgeous does. I think LaMelo can get the most out of his teammates more than Alexander can. And that's not saying much with the Hornets roster construction right now. But LaMelo sets them up. Like, you know how many times we've texted each other and said, man, if the Hornets had a real center, like instead of Plumlee, do you know how many lobs he would have finished? Do you know how many around the basket looks he would get? And Plumlee just bricks them. LaMelo makes his teammates better. And I think his ceiling is honestly higher. I really think his ceiling's higher.
I think you have to go Shai Gilgeous. I don't think there's really debate here. LaMelo is a revolving door on defense. Shai Gilgeous is averaging almost 2 steals a game and 1 block per game. LaMelo cannot guard a stick. He cannot guard anybody. And Shai Gilgeous is averaging 31 a game. LaMelo has proved to be injury prone. And when you watch Shai Gilgeous, he just cares and actually has game awareness, unlike LaMelo. LaMelo plays the same whether it's a 30-point blowout or it's a tie game, game 7 of the NBA Finals. He's going to play the same no matter what.
I mean, if you gave me the option right now, who do you want in a series to like win you a series right now, then I'd probably take Shai Gilgeous. But if you're talking about like for the future, for the rest of their careers, I still think LaMelo's ceiling is higher. I think not that he will, but I think he could get to a point where Shai Gilgeous couldn't get to, like playmaking wise.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think LaMelo's ceiling is unbelievable, but is he going to get there?
I don't know. I personally would take that risk because I don't think there's like a crazy drop off between those two right now. Like, I obviously trust Shea Gilgeous with the ball a lot more right now. But if you're talking about future of the franchise, cornerstone piece, I'm still taking LaMelo. And that might be a little Charlotte Hornets homer in me, but I'm going to stand by that.
All right. Last one. Who would you rather have? Rudy Gobert or Walker Kessler?
I've been waiting on this one, Carter. I've been waiting on this one. Let me read you their stats real quick, if you don't mind. Rudy Gobert this year, over 31 minutes a game, 13 and a half points, 12 rebounds, 1.3 blocks in 31 and a half minutes. Walker Kessler, not even 19 minutes. So below 19 minutes, 7 points, 6.5 rebounds, almost 2 blocks a game. He's at 1.8 blocks. Carter, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm taking Walker Kessler, and I don't think it's particularly close. He, in almost half the minutes of Gobert, he's putting up similar production. Like, if you doubled Kessler's minutes, I think he could put up pretty comparable stats. And he's just a better defensive force. You can play him. And I did not think that you would be able to do that coming out of college. You can play him in close games. You can play him late in the game. Like, he really has a great feel around the rim. And we can talk about the contract situation as well. What a steal. What a steal. What a steal.
The number one thing is, I think they put up similar production, as you said. I mean, you read off the stats right there. It's the locker room aspect. Guys don't like Rudy Gobert in the NBA. Like we saw, Donovan Mitchell clearly did not have a good relationship with Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
And the Timberwolves now, we saw Naz Reid's comments. Clearly, these dudes do not like Rudy Gobert. It's obvious. It's the same consistent theme throughout his career. Guys do not like playing with him that much.
I agree. And plus, I mean, if you look at Kessler, he's a rookie. It's his first year in the league. Like, who knows? He could get so much better. You know what you're getting out of Gobert, and it's kind of a decline for him right now. Like, and you're not going to be able to play him in the playoffs. So it's really, I mean, if you're the Jazz, you got to be feeling great, because I'm taking Kessler straight up right now over Gobert, and that's a crazy take. And people might come for me like, "Oh, you're crazy." Like, Gobert's multiple time defensive player of the year. If you've watched him this year, just this season alone, I'm taking Kessler.
I would just take Kessler solely on the locker room aspect. And also I'm biased. I don't like Rudy Gobert. I don't think he's that great. Look, and this is where analytics and stats nerds and everything get jumbled up, because I think Jokic is that amazing, where analytics people are like, this guy is an anomaly, right, unbelievable. And I'm like, yes, when you watch Nuggets games and you watch Jokic and see what he does, the way he passes the ball, and he can't even be double teamed, because whenever the help comes, then he just finds the open man immediately, just like that. But with Rudy Gobert, when you watch these games, like you said, he's unplayable. All you have to do is get any of these athletic NBA guards on him that can make a shot. He's toast. He's shuffling his feet. He can't guard a guard. And obviously, any big in this NBA is going to have a tough time guarding these incredible guards we have in the NBA right now. But at the end of games, if you can't play the guy, can you really trade 5 zillion first-round picks and all your young players to try and win a title with this guy?
You can't trade that much for somebody who will literally get targeted every play in the playoffs and will probably get exposed and put on an island. Even when he guards guys in the corner, he overhelps, crashes the lane to try to get a block or rebound. If you've got somebody that can shoot in the corner, it's literally like you've got like an overload on the corner. So you got a guy in the corner, guy on the wing. If he crashes, it's 1-on-2 over there. If you've got 2 shooters, then it's barbecue chicken. And that's literally what we saw with the Jazz in the playoffs the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, anything else in the NBA?
No, I'm excited for it to heat up. I will say, I think starting in a couple of weeks, we're going to see some teams start blowing it up, and we're going to see some teams start buying. And I'm curious to see what the first big trade will be. I think we'll know like who's going to start blowing it up pretty early, because this is like the generational year for Wembanyama. So you got to decide soon. I'm just curious to see who actually makes the first move, because I think there's some value to be made in like either selling first or buying first, because you get to kind of like set the market, and there's no precedent to go off of.
I think the Hornets are prime candidates, but also real quick about the Hornets. We're not going to do a little Hornets minute or anything. I just want to say this. The sad part about this season is it wasn't even a tank. It wasn't even a deliberate tank. It's just that they're playing this bad.
Yeah. I mean, you can credit some of the injuries, like the whole Miles Bridges situation. I don't think it would have been that much better, honestly.
Who knows? But all right, that'll do it. We'll be back Wednesday night, Thursday morning, depending on when it comes out. Football pod is back. It's going to be a depressing week after the Panthers, Michigan losing. 2023 is off to a terrible start. Literally, Panthers lose the division. Liverpool loses 3-1. The Hornets are probably getting dogged by the Lakers right now. Nothing's going well in 2023 to start off, except this podcast. Thank you for listening. Check out CarterCast.com. Follow us on all social media at CarterCast. Connor and I at Connor_Sparrow at CarterB8. And yeah, we'll be back. We have guests coming on next week. We're going to be back to the interviews. We have Brandon Anderson coming on from the Action Network. Going to talk a little gambling, and then we'll talk with Bo Estes next week on the NBA pod. So thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all next time.